Good evening. Here we go. Just a few minutes later than I anticipated. But we are here. Oh. How low down am I? I'm so low down. Better. Now I'm too. Good. I'm going to fix the other camera. Aha! Nice. But you may be wondering what's going on. So am I. Most of the time. But here we are. We're in each other's company anyway. So it's June 19th, 2026, and I thought we'd start today with a quick look back at everything that I've produced so far this year, for anybody who's interested. Mostly because I had to go through everything this morning and choose. I took about a third of everything I've done this year, and I took it to the local community centre where they're having an arts festival, which I took part in last year. And this year it's a slightly different setup, but last year it was very much about the art didn't have to really fit a theme, but the whole event had a theme. They'd hired a specific artist from a short list of applicants who designed their whole space in conjunction with the community. I have thoughts about what they did, but it was fine, you know. But last year I took in what was relatively early point in me using acrylic markers, and it was acrylic markers and a mix of that and watercolour for backgrounds. I took in some Corvid illustrations, and those were the ones that were, like 2 or 3 of them were chosen. I always take my stuff in pre-framed, so which surprises them for some reason. I don't know why, but it's good to make sure things are the way you want them to be, right? Anyway, this year I reached out to them in advance because they're not super adept at social media and communication, so it's one of those things where I just had to keep chasing them. But I reached out in advance and they gave me a heads up on what the theme was they were going for, and it was for a summery sort of vibe generally. So I spent the last few days outside of doing the Doctor stuff that I've been doing on stream, doing stuff that kind of fit that as best as it could. So a lot of that you'll see here, but I only separated about a third of it out and took it down because I didn't know quite what they were going to pick, so I didn't want to limit it and take 3 items down and then go, oh, actually these don't work for us. Not that it's a super important event, but going even on foot to somewhere with this stuff in hand, it was relatively heavy, which you'll see why. So I just kind of took less, but kind of tried to stick to what I thought might be a good theme for them. They didn't use the ones I wanted, except for one. But we'll see how it all looks. Just turn this down. Nice, just for me. I also did an illustration of the building about a year ago, and they've had it since then, and they were doing renovations, and they said, oh, we'll put it up once the renovations are done. It didn't go up, and so I thought I'd ask about it, and it turns out they were saving it for the event, and it will go up the same time as everything else, and then stay up afterwards, which is nice. So I plan to go down there and get pictures of everything, but I thought I'd go through and just show off what I've gone through this year, give or take. Some of it may have spilled into early December, maybe. But and some of it's going to be trash. But that's everything. I wonder how much is there actually. Most of it, as you may know if you've watched anything, I use the same 300 GSM's Aquafine Smooth paper for watercolour, but I use it for my marker work most. I find it's really comfortable to work on thicker paper anyway, and if somebody chooses eventually to purchase any of these items, some of them are on sale on my website now. Wait. No, I don't want that. There we go. Loads in chat, jump on over. I sell obviously prints and whatnot, but if I sell the originals, I want it to be on something relatively hardy and of a good quality. And you know, being like this, it can survive being sent in the post a bit better, and it's not going to be a problem if they don't have a frame straight away. If they want a frame, obviously we could talk about it. But anyway, so I did this one originally as one of those sort of summer vibe images based on a reference I have, and you'll find that a lot of it is very similar. A lot of it's just playing with stuff. So this one was literally just a case of I've got the markers here. I just got them the Copic markers, the grey sort of range, and I thought, well, I'll just see what they do and play around and not really have a plan and just look at a reference, but you know, not set out guidelines for it. I just literally 5-second job, paint it in, and that's may have turned out to be one of the better works I've done this year, ironically, just because I loosened up a bit. I've gotten some nice compliments on it anyway from others. You may see the bigger one of this, but I had attempted to do this same image from reference in a free, and I just wasn't happy with it. I did another in the photo shoot that you'll see in here, but it's somewhat improved, I think. Another one, two. This one's from the same photo shoot as that one, but this again, I think it is anyway. But same person. Again, even though she's wearing a jumper, and you know, all these ones are just, they feel summery, they feel warm and bright and light. So yes, that's why I decided upon those. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this one's a pair. So if I find the pair, I'll put it there. Yeah, there it is. So if I ever do sell these on, I want them to go together if possible. I may frame them as a pair and as one piece of art, but it's interesting because this is one where I always talk about where the art feels like it's suddenly taken a turn, and you can see in yourself that you've improved unexpectedly. You know, last year it was 2 images from the same scene, 1 image apart. So I did one with the 2 people in one picture, and then loosened up on a different piece of paper, different sketchbook, and did another one, and that was vastly superior in my opinion, and probably most people's opinion if they saw the 2 from last year. And it's like this moment of oh, it's all clicked together suddenly, and I've leveled up, yeah. And this was the same. Doing these, I was doing them side by side at the same time, kind of fritting back and forth between the 2. And I think it was just the nose here and capturing it without making it look, you know, overly large or absurd, offensive, like capturing the features correctly. Felt like it was a nice turning point overall for the style. It's about 10. 10. So if you see that's 10, that's giving us an idea of thickness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Keanu makes 10. Again, this you'll see some recurring people as references, mostly because just finding someone who's interesting to capture. It's always a thing where you find a reference and you go, where's all the other images from that photo shoot, or where's all the other images of that person I can find, and maybe this one image won't work out, but they're interesting looking, I'll try them from another angle. So you just kind of gather things, right? So you start seeing a few of the same subjects popping up. This one, as one would expect, it also includes some glow-in-the-dark paint on there. So I can't show it here, I don't think. Maybe I can. No, because it's got no charge. But it's the type of glow-in-the-dark paint that charges in sunlight and retains charge for a relatively good period of time. Again, this was one of those turning points where I was desperate to get the likeness right, and it felt like there was an improvement in the ability to do that. So this, I didn't have any large sheets of A3, and I wanted to experiment with just kind of what can I do with tape and popping things on this new desk, this workspace. So just worked at a larger scale just for practice sake, mostly in acrylic markers, oddly, but there's also, you can see there's a sheen on this from using different spray paints and trying for new effects, just experimenting, playing. I did this the other day on stream, just revisiting some of my old OCs, or trying to start redesigning them. I did this as a version of my current branding on my website, and then just scanned it in and very loosely got rid of the background just to make it, you know, stick out. I'm not good at that side of things. I'm lazy, mostly. But, you know, I like it. Hey, Chinlo. Hello. I'm just going through all my stuff from the last 6 to 8 months. So we're just, because I've gone through everything. I don't know if you caught the beginning. But I took a bundle of stuff down the road to a local art festival that's taking place this month, late this month. So I had to separate a few things out, and it's all just been sat here, so I thought I'd go through everything, sort of a mid-year update as to where we're at with how much has been done this year. A few scribbles from other people's live streams. Went upside down again. This is somebody who's an artist and illustrator who's done some work for me. You'll see her illustration of me on the background for the Twitch page. She used to be was trying to get into manga about 20 years ago, and then due to personal reasons had to walk away from it, but worked with some of the bigger names, like as an apprentice years ago. I'd have to look up exactly who, but she posts a few different images of herself, and there's a couple more portraits in here, but I did a couple of portraits of her, and that's how we got to trading images with each other. Again, another one that uses glow-in-the-dark paints. This is just me playing around with just using spray paint to create backgrounds and splotching things on, and seeing what I can do with a sort of loose, playful style. I love my Corvids, as you may know. Another one with my OCs on it, but kind of mental. We're up to about maybe 30, so it looks more than this. Batcat. This is YouTube and Twitch sensation Kamikaze Short Bus, who is a bit of edgelordy, but is alright. Willow Nightingale, professional wrestler. She's a recurring one as well. I really want to redo this because I think I captured Withnail's energy in this one, but I'm not happy with the likeness on it. Now this is my first attempts at using gouache. Don't have it out to show the brand. I believe it's just basic, traditional gouache. I don't know why I just can't quite get to grips with it. There is another larger version of the same image in here that I think is better, that was done the next night over, but it still isn't quite where I want it to be. Amelia Clark. This is the same person who was in that larger 4-panel image. A different photo shoot. I remember this was only a few days ago. Just a girl off of some social media or other. We got into a minor argument, and then I just sketched her from this. It was very surreal. She had an interesting couple of photos up, and I was just like, I can't help myself. Magpie and Chaffinch, attorneys at core. It just is what it is, I suppose. I have a list in a book, or it should be a book somewhere, of a number of gags and puns and ideas for t-shirts, and this was one of them. I'll probably do a cleaner version of this at some point, but it was just sitting there, and I was just like, might as well get that done now. Right, we've got our A4s out of the way, I think. It's a shame. I really wanted one of these to be at the exhibition. This is another illustrator from another artist. Scientists have studied them heavily since they lost their voices but cannot find the cause. Are we talking about chaffinches or... Anyway, this is another artist who I follow on Instagram mostly. Does a lot of, illustration school stuff and lots of just portraits, but from imagination, but using reference. It's, lots of like demons but pretty, Anna de Almas. I can't pronounce her name properly, so forgive me. But bad. Another person I got into a small argument with on social media. I really need to fix it so that it doesn't make a noise when my chat does stuff. Yeah, I think it turned out quite nice, the hair. That was a point where I started using a lot more of the black to kind of pop the base colours. I'd stopped worrying about the fact that clearly there's no black or very dark brown greys there, because even though you're adding that, it seems to make it feel more real and more vibrant. It's interesting. Like you have to get over the sort of urge to make it look proper, accurate, but actually make it look right is a very different thing. I am going to see if I can turn that audio off. Alright. I'm just going to make sure there's no noise. There. Try saying something. Damn it! Try now. I think I've done it. Just going to post. Yeah! Now! Right, cool. Wonderful. But this one got a lot of really positive response, mostly because of the capturing of the musculature in her back, which, fair enough. But I didn't like it because the likeness was off. So I was just like, I'm grateful people are liking it over some of the other stuff I've done. But this, I think the other version I've done of this is in here, which is far more stylised. And I'm starting to lean into my stylisation a lot more now, but I really desperately wanted to get her likeness right, and I kept getting it off. Like it was recognisably her, but not quite right. The scale is proper here. You'll see what I mean by another one, but it's still not quite there. I like this one more than all the others I did, but I need to kind of improve on that. Another full-size one, but this time of Willow Nightingale. This was my first time. Which one? This one? Because it's probably not. Name it, because you're going to be probably off. Back, black dress. Which one? No. No, it's not. Which means I've definitely got the likeness off. Anyway, so this was my first time just playing with acrylic markers. Not outright, but like the Hoo brush markers. All the other markers I'd ever used that were acrylic were always Posca pens, and they were always them sort of round nibs, and they were fine over the years for some more basic work, but these felt better to use. But one of the pens ran out quite quickly, just on this one image. Aside from that, I'm really happy with it. I think it's a very good likeness, and it's got a unique style to it, so I want to play with them more in this way, but you know, I haven't sat down to do so. I've got all these 100 other things. This was relatively recent as well, but doing a group image that was quite restrictive was interesting, and getting all three likenesses right. I think I'm there. The expression here was a bit off, and I need to tidy up my pen work still, but it's alright. It's alright. Again, more of the sort of black in the and the darker shades to kind of pop and create form in the hair. I think that's becoming stronger for me. So that line work I showed earlier, this is the same person. It was like my second or third portrait, and I still can't quite get her likeness right, but this one had a style to it as well, again, so I still kind of like it. Jack Quaid. See, I can do males, or, you know, mask presenting people, except for some reason I've made his neck 12 foot long, but he's got quite a long neck, so this one was all acrylic. Again, just kind of freeform painting instead of doing any sort of line work beforehand. Obviously the limitation is with the range of colours I've got, there isn't a lot of blending you can do, so that the fingers here are supposed to be sort of falling into some darkness, and it isn't quite working out. I think overall the image is nice, but it was more for the sake of experimentation. So I did this portrait because there was somebody on Threads, is where I seem to end up most, just going through Instagram. I don't like Threads much because it's becoming swamped with AI recently, but there's some good people there still. This young lady was there, and she was talking about feeling unattractive and being treated badly for the way she looks, and I just looked at a couple of her images, and this one stuck out, and I was just like, well, I'm going to have to do that and just send it to her. And she, you know, was hopefully really happy, but she seemed really happy with it, but you know, just trying to boost people a little with how they feel about themselves. And I think that's one of my better portraits as well. It's almost a perfect likeness, so yeah, it was nice to do. This was based on black and white photo booth photo, so I think I'm stronger in sepias and black and whites and monochrome. Although this one, again, I seem to go through phases of getting likenesses to a really good quality and then having a massive dip the day after or the week after. But this one went down really well. I'm really happy with the hair on this one as well, especially the areas where it's thinning out, and you can just see where it's just quite thin strands, but you can the mind is kind of filling in the pattern and the shape of the hair. Yeah, I like that one quite a lot, and the foreshortening on the arm I think works really well. Again, black and whites. This one less good. I would show another one I did of her, but it's one of the ones that's been put up for the exhibition, so not tonight. A massive shit. What were we talking about? My likeness, or my ability to capture likeness, goes from and then it could be amazing, and then just go off a cliff, like within the next day or the next week, and it seems to just come on and off. This is the person I've done the most portraits of, just because it's easier, and that's alright. I'm going to continue ploughing on anyway because there's a lot to get through, but mostly because she usually looks really interesting and clean and striking in every image, but also she seems to be constantly changing her style, so, or like hair colour, haircut, clothing style, you know. So it's a great bed of reference for different sort of looks while having consistency to work from, and also the more times I practice with the same person, again, it's getting closer and closer to the likeness, getting that reference and likeness right on one person, and then if I can consistently do that, I can feel confident being able to do that for anyone, you know. I think it's one of the cleaner ones I've done. Same person again. This is the first time I did an image of that person, which I've been doing back and forth portraits with, so this was this sort of kick-off for it, and I kind of like that we don't really see her face, so that gave me a little leeway, but it was also a bit of a test, you know, not having some of the features there to really kind of help with the structure, because you fall into quite a good rut of I've got the eyes in the right place, I've got the nose in the right place, but it doesn't really prepare you for, you know, really striking angles, and so tackling that sort of thing more often is advisable. I might think, and I've been going over this in my head, this is almost perfect reference and likeness. And I might think this is my best portrait so far. It's certainly what I think is my cleanest. If I can get to a consistent level where it's like of this quality, then I'd be pretty happy. But yes, it's not my favourite work, just in general. But I think it's my strongest, cleanest, most accurate work. My favourite work is in a frame over here, and it was the lights reflecting off of it. It was one where I had, it was the reference was in like in semi-shadow, so she's a nude, but it's just mostly in shadow, so you can only see her face and her arms and some outlines of some bits of, you know, skin. And I wanted to do something monochrome or black and white, or, you know, sepia. And I'd gotten some, this is white, which is on here actually, a few spots, but it's just some acrylic ink. I've gotten some acrylic ink to just play with. I had some of the paper out, and I was just like looking at this reference and thinking, how can I do it? And I just grabbed the black ink and just started dripping it onto the paper directly without thinking about where I was putting it. And I just grabbed this big old dry brush and just carved out the general shadow and hair area, and allowed it to make mistakes, and then just finished off the details of the face and the hands and a little bit here and there to just show the light areas and give it more of an abstract feel. And I've tried to replicate that sort of style again, because I really liked how it came out and how sort of freeing and playful the style was, both to work with and to look at, that sort of abstraction and imperfection, but looking at it, that like you can't see any nudity, the body's not the right shape, but if you just look at it and look at the face, it just looks right. If that makes sense. And I'd love to do a series of stuff like that, of different people and backgrounds. Amanda Seyfried, I think. The likeness is close enough to recognise, but not close enough. I don't remember what bird this is. It looks very similar to a robin, but from my point of view, I believe, possibly. I don't remember, because I was looking at a range of different birds at the time, and it was just like, ooh. And I was playing with the acrylic markers, so I just kind of played with the colours to see what I could do with them. I think the bird generally looks nice. The background kind of detracts from the quality, but I still quite like it. When it comes to best work, or considering it my best work, again, it's from my personal point of view. Other people can look at stuff and will probably think differently. But I want to be able to produce things with that level of consistency and cleanness. With all my other stuff, I can see errors, I can see brush marks that shouldn't be there. I want to even everything out a bit more, and I want to be able to reliably get likeness right. And then once you can do that, then I can allow it to have its own stylisation via what I've picked up over the years. But I'd like it to be reliable when it comes to consistency. But that other work, I'd love to be able to do some more stuff like that and have it be as good, in my personal opinion. Some slightly more abstract stuff. So there was a lovely photograph of somebody playing on stage, and the light was behind them. They were only seeing blues, and stage lights were reflecting in a certain way. So I just kind of leaned into the abstraction on this as well, and just kind of played with how I put lines on paper and what I was using. So it's a mix of different things. I think there might be glow in the dark paint on here, because it's got I don't remember, it's got a texture, and the glow in the dark always has a sort of gritty texture to it. But I haven't put it in the light to test it. It's been a while, but I wouldn't have surprised myself if I had used some as well. This isn't the one I showed earlier of the girl with the hat. It's the same person from the same photo shoot, but obviously a different pose and position. And I like this one a lot, even though it's again slightly off, and some of these areas are a bit looser. You can see a lot thinner areas of ink. I find it really striking. I think it's interesting, so I'm quite happy with that. Another one, and I think a very different one, of that person I was talking about before. The same person, and if you don't know, you don't recognise that they're the same, but for such a very different look, aside from the fluffy collar on the coat, different coat, different outfit, different haircut, different environment, but really striking, interesting reference to work from. I think this is one of my favourites as well, mostly because of the background. Like, I think that's really well done for me, but then the background works better the further away you get, the more and more distance you give it, the more it feels like it really is kind of capturing the blurriness of the lights on the street in the middle of the night, you know. Tidy them up. So this is the sister picture to this. Obviously very different, just the tones are different. But only the second time I've worked with gouache paint, and it was literally one day then the next, and I think while then both not fantastic work, the improvement is there still, taking into account scale difference. So I'm not disappointed at all, but I know where I need to get more experience with it. Oh, well, there were some small ones still. Nice sleepy kitty. Another one of my more recent portraits, pretty happy with. So, if anybody's voted reform, I'm sorry if this makes you uncomfortable, not sorry. I remember seeing this picture, a photograph of her throwing the milkshake on Nigel Farage, and I'm just going to trim off these bits of tape, and devoid of political opinion, because while this has an opinion as an image, what struck me was the timing in the photograph must have been perfect, right? Because he's captured the milkshake and the lid and it all bursting open and just frozen in pristine condition in the air. And I thought it was beautiful. Just devoid of the subject matter. So I had to, really. And then it became a mug on my website as well. So if you want to get yourself a milkshake dispensing device, feel free to head over to my website. No matter what your opinion is. So I showed my logo earlier, which has the eye with the crown of fire above it. And I've been drawing these corvids a lot last year. And I got to this idea in my head of doing something that would go on the back of a jacket that I would want to embroider, and so I started playing around with designs, and this is one of the steps in that sort of design process. It's not the final one, but the idea of a sort of not traditionally coloured sort of raven or crow, and the fire crown and that sort of abstract imagery. And I just threw that moth in there because why not? But this one also glows in the dark. Or the sparks from the flames all glow in the dark, as do the crow's eye as well. So we get to last week's. So we've got all the doctors in blue. I will be doing a doctor in blue later on in a minute. Patrick Troughton, who's my favourite doctor. William Hartnell. Matt Smith, who's up there. Slightly rounder headed David Tennant. We'll get the doctors out of the way before we move to anything else. John Pertwee. I will be redoing Tom Baker at some point, or doing better art, but the reference I took for this looks almost exactly like this. He looks very strange in it. So Peter Davidson, and then we'll get to the others in a minute, I think. Years ago, like a couple of years ago, I was talking to a friend and I did an illustration of the Bugs No meme, and then I did one of a guy from I think it was from a documentary, one of those cheap airport whatever Life of Grime-esque documentary, docu-series, real life series. Yeah. But he was like constantly talking about his diet before an event and it being fish and a rice cake. So that became a meme obviously, and I did an image of that. And I've had this idea in my head of doing like fine art memes, and similar. So this is one of my favourite quotes from a Stuart Lee stand-up, and I just threw it together with some acrylic markers for the lols. I think they're like, this is close enough, but again, that sort of blending isn't great with these markers, so I think the colours are too harsh. I don't have a great range, so it's a bit of fun, right? This is where something went very wrong, mostly because her face was at a funny angle and I couldn't do it right no matter what I tried. Like her neck looks overly thick and distorted mostly. So I leaned into it being bad and just finished it and made it look deliberately more sort of vibrant and abstract and sort of off. I can live with it. This was one that didn't go right. I may end up salvaging this actually, but I just kind of put it to one side because it wasn't 100% off. It was just a bit of play. Another one that didn't quite go right. This again. Sometimes I do line work. Sometimes I just do a bit of pencil work to show where the eyes and a couple other features will be. And sometimes I just paint outright with alcohol markers. And this started as alcohol markers and then wasn't going right. The proportions were off, so I tried with acrylic markers to salvage it, and it just was not working. It almost got there, but just the scale is off, really. So I'd like to retry it again. I've got the references still, but I like to try not to stick to one reference for too long, and then save them in a completed folder so I can come back. And if I feel there are ones that I definitely want to redo, then I can do them. But moving on is important. Pinion or Xanthi in her prawn outfit from a random stream I was watching. In this case, Christmas prawn. This was done during one of her streams in about 2 hours. Again, just playing with colour, just seeing what I can do. So we're getting a few that have gone slightly wrong. This one you wouldn't know why it's wrong if you didn't already see the reference next to it, right? For the most part, the cat looks quite good, and in relation, she doesn't look too out of place. But because I know what it's supposed to look like, I can't carry on with it yet. I want to redo it one day, but see, I've gone back and forth on this one. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's quite right. This one, recently I posted on a few Discords, and in one it was mistaken for the wrong person. So even though I can see where I've made some mistakes in comparison to the actual image as well. I think the likeness is there for me, but the fact it wasn't recognisable straight away for other people made me reconsider how much I'd gotten wrong. I think the likeness on these is almost perfect, but there's something that doesn't look quite right. Jack Quaid again, Simon Pegg. You can tell it's them, but Aubrey Plaza with a lollipop. I took several images from a GIF. So I've got ones with her like about to and just after. But I find interesting features like extortions of mouths and things like that more interesting and more fun and more reliable to paint. I find it's mainly older men with beards I have the most fun illustrating, because you've got all those lines, so there's gnarled cracks and creases and folds in the skin, especially if they're smiling and they're missing teeth. It's like, that's really fun to take part in drawing. But expressions on anyone, I prefer. Don't people enter lookalike contests for themselves and lose it? Yes, they do. But that depends, doesn't it? It's like, are they looking like the public version of them? Like the actor? Or are they looking like them when they're not working, you know? And is that person who wins replicating the actor public facing version of them? It's an interesting thought experiment to take part in. I think this one looks mostly there, but you can't tell what's supposed to be happening here, even though this looks quite close to the actual image. But this is like her right arm and her right hand, but it looks like an AI's got the arms wrong. So that this arm is should be coming from there, but no, it's got two elbows. I may retry it, but it does sort of look like that. So I showed this the other day, but it's Godzilla, the original Japanese poster, but with a possum. Another image is, I think this might be the actual first one. Another image of the artist who has been doing back and forth portraits with me. Again, I'm not doing it so that I can get portraits from her. I'm doing it because I want to get her likeness right, and nothing quite clicks yet. I can't stop until it's right. David Harbour has Father Christmas from whatever that action comedy about Father Christmas was. It's on the tip of my tongue. If you know it, let me know. A group of my favourite Pokemon from when I was playing Scarlet and Violet, just for the lols. Trying to get an image with two people as like the same person in a reflection, and get both of them to look right, but also to work with the fact that it's a reflection, so you're seeing very different sort of angles of the face. It's almost there. I'd say 85 to 90% there, but another one I might run again at a less good Amanda Seyfried, mostly because the scale is off, obviously. And I showed this one almost at the beginning. The one who's not from Charmed. And you can see why this was a problem, because this is definitely far more accurate. But this is really... Yes, it's not Rose McGowan. I would never, no offence to anybody who's a fan of Charmed, but Rose McGowan is a problematic person who I do not find appealing to illustrate for my own personal reasons, so I probably would never try to. But no, this is not Rose McGowan. This person is Asian, of Asian descent anyway. Is an actress, but not her. But this one, obviously the features are all the same, but it's like a caricature. But this one is like the scale is right, but it's not quite there. But they both look like they're all right. It's weird. Once you see the difference, you get it, I think. But there are people who would prefer that one, right? But I wouldn't mind it if that's something I'd aimed to do. But I just kind of drew from reference, and it turned out that distorted. Right? It's interesting. Like, again, if I was doing stylized portraits or caricatures, I think that's a really good quality caricature. Clean. But the truth is closer to that, and I want to be able to capture the truth consistently, especially if somebody wants to commission me to do an illustration or portrait, and I only hit like 30% of the time. That's not ideal. And oddly, there she is again, but with her hair tied back in a very different photograph I reference. This looks very clean, but the proportions off. The angle is an interesting angle to begin with, but because of the way the hair sits and the angle of the camera and the way the dress is worn, it makes this shoulder look like it's jutting out way too far. Basic portrait reference. Some fan art of a TV show. Likeness is there. Likeness for the small monster character is there. But the way the shoulders sit on this image makes him look like he's hunching in the wrong way. So I'd like to do it again at some point. Once a year I do my own self-portrait. Obviously, that's why it's a self-portrait. And this was this year's effort. This was based on a picture of me at a bus stop as I was coming home or going to a former place of employment. And this is a scarf my wife knitted for me, which I love. This is an interesting one only because it's made of two different images at once. It's I don't know if anybody's seen the meme or the video clip of the woman with a jumping spider on her finger, and she lifts it up and holds it to the camera and gets it really close to the camera and says "say hi," and then it just goes like that, and then she reacts, and the timing between the leg being up and her face is not equal, right? So I had to kind of play with time a little bit, but it looks very close to her. All of the clothing and everything looks nice here, but her face doesn't look quite right. Again, based on the reference. Aubrey Plaza's death. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think based on the face, even though you can't see her face under the prosthetic makeup, you can tell it's her. And that makes me quite happy. That if you can capture somebody just using their eyes, and they're that obscured. So while it's not like perfect, I think I quite like it. So I've been planning on doing some references from a movie, a French version, one of the early versions of Beauty and the Beast, or Belle and the Beast. And then there was a remake of that, but in France. And this was the lead actress in it, but I'm not sure this is from that film. So I want to do the original black and white film, because it's quite interesting and lavish and striking looking, and it's unique for a number of reasons. I also really like some of the visuals of her and the Beast in the more modern version, so I was just kind of playing with images of her just to see her capture, but I wasn't sure if this was from a scene or just happened to look quite similar to another film she was in. Again, another one of my favourites, mostly because of the hair. I think this year has been my hair year, and this was one of the very early ones where it's just like chef's kiss, The reference is actually just a Shutterstock reference I found online randomly because I was researching a range of samurai and ninja sort of imagery and swordsmen, but all female. And this was one of the more striking images, and I was just like, I may as well just capture that as a just basic portrait. And I think it's one of my better pieces, I think, personally. Especially with the brush strokes here, where it's actually sort of feeling like it's escaping the material. Another go at that image. This was the very first one, or one of the very first ones. Obviously I kind of abandoned before I got too far into it, but just kind of playing with different mediums to see what it would look like. Another one of my favourite Pokemon, but done in a more unique style. So there's this, I'd say young woman, she's 30, but a woman on DeviantArt, which I still frequent and post my stuff to because I post my stuff everywhere. And I saw this image and I was like, that's a cool image, I want to capture that. And it turns out she's somebody who posts a lot of more provocative imagery on there, and has galleries for subscriptions, so people can see even more provocative, kind of like artistic OnlyFans sort of thing going on. But the one sort of image that really appealed to me was the one where she wasn't trying to do all that stuff, oddly. And I think it's kind of like seeing a performance go away and it's just an image of a person in an honest moment. And this is one of my favourite portraits, I think. Like the details on the mug, like the paper cup, like feel nice to look at. And only a couple of times have I managed to get sort of a nice t-shirt print to look right. But this is one of them. And Megadeth, yeah. This was a very quick run at Columbo. It was almost perfect, but his eyes are slightly too far apart. For him, that's not so bad because he's got the one glass eye. You can kind of forgive there being a bit of an oddity going on, but it's not quite there. So again, another one to run at again. An abandoned Peter Capaldi, who we will be revisiting today. The one, the only Art Chappie, who is a joy to capture portraits of every time I get the chance. I like this one mostly because of the use of the glitter on the gear. Kind of gives it a nice pop. Little portrait practice, nothing major. These ones are all kind of not quite right, but they're all right, And we're back to the doctors. Hurrah! Colin Baker, quietly, officially, unofficially the best doctor. Paul McGann, I think one of my favourites from the series, Christopher Eccleston. And the bottom picture I can't show because it's on my website and it's exclusive for people who follow on there specifically, although the membership is free If you're a supporter, you just want to show me your support, feel free to head over to my website and follow there. Yay! I might as well do the Discord as well while we're here. I'm so slow at that with one hand. And Sylvester McCoy. And that's everything from January till now, with a little overspill into December. And it's funny because I took the art down the road today to be kind of looked at and decided on which ones will be displayed, and I only took about a third of it, and I was like, yeah, I bought some of this stuff, I don't know what you'd like to choose. And they're going like, oh, you're very prolific. When are these from? I'm like, from January. And they're going, and then I remember I've got twice as much at home. So, I don't know. My goal? I'll answer that question when I get back. I'm going to quickly use the facilities and we'll start work on something, and then we'll talk about what my goal is. Good question. So, sorry if I surprised anyone. Hello. So, I was asked, and I quote, Jinlo said, and you're saying your goal from here is. So, for me, I'm going to turn the camera back on while I'm here. That's my first goal. For me, I would be making art no matter what happens. Because at the end of the day, I'm compelled to do it. The art I choose to work on, with regards to that creatively, I suppose it depends what we're talking about, right? In the creative technical sense, my goal is to feel that I'm able to be on the level I need to be for me, with regards to accuracy, with regards to be able to capture what's in front of me and have it be recognisable evenly and regularly, to be of a regular general good quality in other people's eyes. Like, I know other people look at my work and go, oh, that's really nice, but if I put it up against several other people's work, I think it wouldn't be seen as of an equal technical skill as others. Not in the sense I'm comparing myself to them, but I know people look for certain things and they look at certain types of work, and mine would probably be lost in the shuffle. I don't want to compete with other people, but you have to think about, if you are ever going to turn it into a job or a business, making it appealing enough for your style to other people. Right? I can only base it on my own opinions to start with, and my experience. I have had my website up for a year and a half. I have put original works up for sale, and I have even long before I was doing art, or I had to return to art, I was on every piece of social media you can imagine and constantly sharing things, and I can still constantly share things, and I get relatively good responses from everything. But I've made 4 sales in that time, and we're talking one person bought things twice that were quite cheap, small things. Nobody's bought original artwork. I had one commission, but that was a friend, and it was more of like a cheap favour to them, or to me, a bit of fun, you know. So I'm not selling to people who don't know me, and I'm not being seen. I don't mind about subscriber numbers, don't get me wrong. I'm not really interested in that side of things. I'm not like a social media obsessive. Like, I open it up and I post on it because it's a good tool for me, because it makes sense to. I can't really get out and around as well, so I have to use what tools are available. Right? But I know that my work isn't appealing to the people who do see it enough, and enough to the right people, to make it any sort of interest in sales, even on the cheap merch like prints and stuff. So I have to keep working until I figure out exactly what will work for that. So I need to, personally, I will keep working for my own sake, but I need to also kind of adapt and figure out what works professionally. I don't want to earn a lot of money or anything. I'm not after thinking this is a great sort of career choice, but I can't do much else right now for many reasons. I don't want to feel like, if I am doing this all the time, then essentially this is what I do, then maybe I can get good enough to make something from it and subsidise it, so I can keep doing it as well, and maybe eat a little every so often. outside of that, I started the year out saying to myself that I would try and hopefully, knock on wood, eventually have my own show, either with some other people or a smaller venue by myself. Logistically, that's challenging for somebody. Generally, I don't have my own transport, so I have to rely on public transport or the assistance of others. So I'm limited to locally or places I can get to, and then I'm limited to what the finances, which is pretty much zero at the moment. But I want to show the work because I don't think I'm fantastic, right? But I do know that I'm good enough, and the process is good, and I enjoy the art. So I would, like, I am in this work. That's myself spread across all those papers, even if they're images of just people pulled from all over the place. And even if it doesn't take as long as other people take, which is why it's probably not as tight as it could be, I think I'm good. And the first moment I really believed that was when my wife, she saw me doing an illustration. Bear with me. In this sketchbook last year, and I was just getting used to marker pens at the time, and I was like, I've got all these sketchbooks from over the years, and some of them are a bit duff, I would start works and it would look really shoddy and it would look really bad, and I'm not great at drawing from imagination, but I always had a bit of a strength at drawing portraits, and I kind of resisted doing portraits for a long time because I didn't want to do them. I wanted to do comic book art and stuff like that. I wanted to do the cool stuff. And then I realised it was all cool stuff, And I went through the sketchbooks and I was going, I'm going to complete this sketchbook. And some of it won't be good, but I'll start playing and I'll see what happens, right? And I found a page which had what was going to be a sketch of Doctor Strange, done long before the first film. And I found that and I just started from a reference of Benedict Cumberbatch playing him in the film, and I did that freehand by myself without thinking about it, and there was a likeness there, and I was like, this looks like the picture in front of me, and I can clearly tell it is. And it's like, I don't know if I'm right, but I think that's good, And then my wife came in and she was looking at me while I was doing it, and she looked at this image, and I've seen it once before, but when you learn like an expression on someone's face, and you can really read what they're really saying, and she looked at it and her eyes opened in such a way, it was almost like the double take meme, Drew Scanlon for life, and she just did that, and she was like, that's really good, and she wasn't saying it to be nice, it was surprising her, And it was like the first time I'd felt that about what I'd been doing. I really felt it was like not just a compliment for compliment's sake, but just like, oh, there's something to this. And I think I've gotten a lot better over the last year. Obviously, that's going to happen just for anyone, I think. But over the last year, I think I have. So I'd like to be able to show I've done all this work. Why not exhibit it all, or a large amount of it, under a theme, or work with some other people who use markers like me, or who do portraits, or do a certain theme, and because I've tried getting other sort of events and shows and not had much luck. Most need more money than I can give right now, so do it yourself, So I'd like to do that as well. I think that answers the question. But these are my rejects. I ran out of supplies doing the Doctor images, so I have ones that have some work on them, ones that have bad work on them, and ones that could have been great, but for whatever reason they just went really wrong. Once you see what's wrong, you can't unsee it. So I can't really do anything on the top of this, and I can't really use the back of it because this will be on the other side. It's like, so maybe I can paint over that and that and that. But these two, being only very light line work or only a bit of something, especially this one, I can afford to use the backs for another piece of work and then cover over the backs. So I figured I'd use one of these today, and we can get Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, and if I can salvage one more, and if I accept maybe skipping David Tennant because he's already been done, although I probably will still do Shooty Gatwa, then I can do the last 3 to 4 with what I've got here potentially. So I figured I'd do the Peter Capaldi today. I know I'm already doing, if nobody saw it, on this wall here behind in the small camera, there's a painting just starting featuring Capaldi. That'll have to do. And it's the first time I've touched a paintbrush for a long time, so hopefully that turns into something. I'm just going to take my time with it because it's been so long. But I still need to do the blue series as well, so we're going back to Capaldi as a big painting, but we're also going to do the blues still. So now we're finally, after about an hour and a bit, going to do some actual artwork. Come on. Stand up. Right, hopefully that holds in place. Let's hope the camera stays as well. Nice. let's actually do some art. Hope that was at least somewhat interesting to someone. Right. I have a reference saved. A few, actually. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. I'm in the wrong bit. Reference materials, painting subjects. I've got two options. I'm just going to decide between two of them at random. Maybe merge them. There's one I'd love to do slightly more dynamic than the other. Cry that out. There we go. Right. Let's see. Yeah. It's a little bit scuffing on the back, but nothing major. It would be good if I had my glasses. Okie dokie. Well, 30 minutes I should be done. Alright, that's a bit too much. What are you having? Oh, let me know what it is. I had a homemade chili today, and I maybe shouldn't have put the pepper sauce that I did in there. I'm regretting it now. Ooh, salmon and feta, nice. I'm not a massive salmon fan, but I know posh when I hear it. As always, we're just kind of building layout. We're not actually doing the finished work right now. Anything for afters, by the way? I say posh, I should say classy. It's a classy meal. I'm saying because I'm jealous. Mine's given me an upset tummy. There's a hand here, sort of grasping, or laying flat on. How are you cooking that salmon? Or how is it being cooked? I shouldn't jump to conclusions. Oh, nice. Well, easy, but reliable, you know, wholesome. That's our general placement. Well, you know, McDonald's depends on where you are. You know, when I used to eat at McDonald's, it was always the fillet of fish. Back when I was eating there, it was ironically while I was vegan. So it was either just as I was coming out of being pescatarian, and it would be the fillet of fish, or it would just be if they happened to have a bean burger or something like that. But it's been so long, I don't know what they offer now. But I found that the non-regular meals, they were made so rarely that they were always really clean and nice. Yeah. Nobody ever ordered them, so it was just like, oh, we have to actually take our time to make this right. Well, you know, depends how many you've eaten. Everybody should have a treat day. I'm just zooming in on his face. By zooming in, I mean right in. And we're going to pick a 0.5 standard for me when going for A3. He's got really obvious eyelashes, interesting. Oh, I do hope my head isn't obscuring too much of the top camera. Don't see how me moving that will help, but still. Quite a lot of this is going to be obscured by shadow. Which is always my friend. That's a long shadow though. It's got quite a long gap between mouth and nose. This is certainly going to look more like him than my painting does at the moment. Although I can see where it's going to be his face eventually. One of these days. Yeah, so looking ever so slightly to the right of, or his right, our left. Look cold. But it's his eyes are, I mean, so slightly looking that way, it's, you wouldn't know if it was forward or not. And getting that right, that's the sort of thing that bothers me. If someone's looking really to the left or right, you can tell, but somebody's just looking slightly off camera. And you don't get that both eyes were just right for that. And that can throw things off a little. Or a whole bloody lot. And then we've got getting the folds right as well, because obviously he's going to have sort of turkey neck stuff going on from his age. I don't want to make it too predominant, because then it's just like skin's coming straight from the chin. That doesn't sit right. The side's slightly off, but it's alright. It's alright. For these, I'm kind of being more forgiving. We're supposed to be quite quick. Shadow's great, but it's also a little obscuring for where things start and finish. Hairline needs to be slightly higher, but that's alright. It's funny, for somebody who's the oldest person at the time to play the Doctor, he has the least predominant forehead, should I say, brow lines I've seen. At least he did at this point. Maybe they've snuck in a bit more now. Right, his ear starts a little shy of the eye. And head's just a little below the nose. Maybe a bit longer. It's a great thing about this sort of deliberate freeform, looser sort of projectors. Gives me a little leeway to just mess about. So this ear is ever so slightly lower. I think that's an alright likeness, considering what we've got. We'll see how the overall look plays out. jacket in. About there. I wasn't too far off scale wise from what it was going to be like. We're mostly there. So let's get in on that hand. Damage he knows. So this finger's bending ever so slightly. So it looks like it's sort of stubby. Also there's a lack of clarity to some of the image. You can't see much of the knuckle on these two fingers, so you can see folds and some bits, but a couple of vessels. That's about right, except that it's a bit freeing because there's a fold and the cufflinks, so I can actually cover for the fact that it's imperfect. Yeah, that hand's unique. But it's alright. Nothing else, it gives us our placement for everything else. So this is going to be corrected as a colour anyway, so I'm not too bothered about these little hiccups, because you can't really see anything in the coat area, thankfully. Ah, there they are. Cool. There's a speeder. Hello, speeder. Speeder just ran past my feet. Terrified. The speeder, not me. I hope, anyway. There we go. Right. This one's dead. Okay, that's a shame. So we may have to dream up a way of doing this. Maybe this one? Yeah, it's even. I only need this blue to last until I've done the last couple. Which hopefully it will. If not, I will figure something out. This weather isn't helping. It's so warm. Oh, just got to check something. You can't see what I'm doing. Hope. Right, where were we? Remind me. Shortbread. Before I finish. Thanks. What's the time? Oof, quarter past 12 already. Blimey. Welcome to the 20th. Now that's this side was the harder side, so we should be alright. Do you know why it was harder? Because there was more of it. Yeah, I'm using both hands. What of it? Almost out, but we should be right for this last little bit. Nice. Right. Let's get our skin tones out of the way. We just want blue. Brilliant. It's alright, the hand's dark anyway, whatever. You can tell it's late. Right, let's get the actual pen we're supposed to be using. Which is Baby Boy. Now you can see why it was too dark on the other one. That kind of suits the purpose, because we're going to darken everything anyway, so why not just use that to highlight the fact it's darker down there. Right. We'll be going over another dark sort of shadow colour. But this is a good starting point. I think that's getting the way I like features often. Then we're going to go for light turquoise. This will be the major shadow. So drastically different from the others. A little bit here and there, which gives us the chance to lean into the fact this is darker. And allow for the mistake to become part of the features. Next, let's get that hair out the way. I'll add some highlights that in a minute. So remember where I put everything. Vitamins. You saw nothing. Let's see. I'm just going to add a little ice blue. Just to show some shade on the lip. So there's not much. A little bit of pep in the eyes. And all we have to do is coat the jacket, the waistcoat. while this nib stays on, which I found the Copic nibs do not stay on very well. Nope, it's drying out too. Hair on my mouth for some reason. And I've picked up the wrong colour pens. Brilliant. Brilliant. Brilliant blue. Nice. Right, let's try that again. Let's try it with this. It's funny how sometimes it's just the cheap stuff that does what you need it to do. They aren't all exactly the same, but they're all close enough that should carry us. Itchy nose. Oh, we're getting there. Ooh. Get out of the way. Tell me, who's here for the pen sounds? So I need a slightly different blue for that waistcoat. If I've got one. Got like hair in my mouth and it will not leave. Nice. Just gonna quickly hit a shirt up with this colour. Just give it that feeling of shadow. I like to use a grey. Just a little touch here as well. Righto, now for the interesting part, because we do not have what we've been doing so far, supplies wise, available to us. So, I'm just going to kind of wing it. Ah, I thought it was over there. Just got to grab my whisk. Definitely need to protect the face, but aside from that, I'm not too concerned. So what we're trying to do isn't too bad. It wouldn't be anyway if I could find what I need. Ah, there's my white. That's working well enough so far. I can live with that. Almost done. Right, just one more thing to do. I need to age him up. That's where we're going. I'm not covered in paint. Amazing. Quite hoping this heat is going to make the glue slightly more forgiving and not damage the paper. Yeah, it's a bit close to what it looks like. But not perfect. Right, we're going to call it now. It's been a quiet Friday to Saturday. Put my rubber away. Ooh. See if we can raid somebody. And then move on. Thank you for coming in and watching, lurking. I hope it's been a chill enough time. Man, I need to work on my lighting. Right. Let's see what crazy people are at the moment. Oh, thank you, Strelly. Thank you for saying hi. Sorry, I'm not going on for too long tonight, but it's very hot right now. Oof. Let us raid. Yeah, good night to you too. Welcome in. Good night. Let's hop over to Draw Curiosity. We will raid in a couple of moments with like our very small group of people. But as you head over to say hi, be nice, be good, be kind, and squids in chat if you get